Welcome back. It's been a while since I've recorded my last video on beginning Buddhism. With things that are going on and we all get busy. And I would say, fortunately or unfortunately, I've had occasion to have to go back to my practice. They call it taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Buddha is obviously the Buddha, and, he was an enlightened being. He became enlightened. And the Dharma is his teachings around being enlightened. And the Sangha is the spiritual community. So they call it taking refuge in the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So I don't really have a Sangha so much, at least not very close to me, not around. The closest that I've found is like an online community. Also, there is a community in Manhattan, which is maybe like an hour and a half from me. There's a couple of spotty, here and there across Long Island communities, but I never really found, I don't know, I've never really attached to too many communities in my life. So that's just a personal thing. Always been anti-click, I guess. And I found a lot of things tend to be cliquish, and people do get attached to identities and people and situations as they are, and perceptions and labels. And that's a little bit about what I want to talk about today. Because as we know, Buddhism is about, it's not really a religion so much as, there's no God to believe in. And it's not to say that Buddha didn't believe in God. Buddha didn't address that question. Buddha's main concern was suffering, the causes of suffering and the end to suffering, things that lead toward it and things that lead away from it. And that is pretty much the basis of what his teachings were all about. And the one I want to talk about today is letting go as a means to ends of suffering. And Ajahn Chah said that if you let go a little, you have a little bit of peace. If you let go a lot, you have a lot of peace. And if you let go completely, you have complete peace. Now, I have found in my experience that we don't even know so much what we are attached to until we lose it, or until it's in danger of being lost. And that causes us a lot of times to act in very unskillful ways, and unskillful meaning that it leads towards more suffering rather than away from suffering, because we do things in order to keep or hold on to that which we're attached to. And it could be, some of the more obvious examples would be, let's say you're dating someone and they become interested in somebody else, and you get jealous and you fight for them, and and then that just causes more suffering and doesn't work. I don't know. I've never personally been in that situation, thank goodness. But that's just one example. In my own life, probably the biggest example is I had a very lengthy career that was ripped from me suddenly and tragically, and there was a lot of trauma, a tragic event, and trauma resulting from it, and acute ongoing stress for a very long period of time. And in that time, the thing that was most painful was not necessarily the loss of the immediate job that I had at the time, even the friends that I had, the lifestyle. These were all things that, yes, I was attached and used to and suffered because I was losing those things. But the most painful, I'm just listening to, there's something outside my house and banging on the wood. I don't know what it is. So I'm gonna have to send my dog to investigate. The most painful thing was losing my identity. I had a set identity for 20 years, and it was a very strong attachment to that identity. I was a teacher, and I lived, ate, breathed, thought about, just was all the time. Even when I was not formally teaching in a classroom, even on my summer vacations, and I would go to music festivals and there would be kids there, and I would have those juggling sticks that they call them devil sticks, and I'd be using those, and or playing hacky sack, and and kids would come up or people would come up and wanted to learn how to do these things, and I was teaching them even then. And even today I'm good at teaching. I'm a good trainer. I own a business. I teach. I'm also in finance, and I have occasion to teach people about finance, and that's actually one of my favorite parts of the job. But that identity was so ingrained in me, and I was so attached to it, that when everything changed, it was I can't even describe the pain. It was surreal, because everything I knew for 20 years had been turned upside down, and basically in an instant, in a tragic moment. So the reason that I'm thinking about this today is I'm now a business owner, and I haven't been a business owner that long. And there's some stuff going on, and it's actually right out of the gate has been a very successful business. We've been very blessed and lucky that making a profit 5 months in, like that's unheard of when you start a business, right? We're about 9 months in now, and something has come to light that, and through no fault of our own, it actually has zero to do with us. It's one of those, what's the serenity prayer? God grant me the serenity to accept the things I can, and, however it goes. I'm under pressure. I can't think. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That's it. Anyway, it has absolutely nothing to do with me, and I basically have no control over it. And for the last couple of days, since learning about this particular thing, I found myself in a lot of pain, a lot of suffering mentally. And upon further reflection, I realized that it's not even so much, okay, I've invested a lot of time and money into this business, I'm going to lose... if we have to close it, I'm going to lose the customers. I'm going to lose the relationship. It's a franchise, the franchisor and people that have been involved in the franchise for a length of time. It's become like family. So I'm going to lose, the relationship is going to definitely change if I'm not a franchisee, change or cease to exist. And none of those are quite so painful as the loss of the identity. And that's just a very odd thing, because I haven't even had that identity that long. And I thought I'm not really all that attached to it. I can take it or leave it. But when I think about leaving it and just throwing my hands up and saying, okay, it is what it is, it's painful. And I know what to do. I've been studying the Dharma since 2007. And, there's periods of time. I think I turn to it more when I need it. I seek refuge, and that's where I'm at now. So I'm back to, the lessons. Yes. Oh, yes, this is painful. Attachment to anything. So how do I have peace? Besides reminding myself of the Buddhist teachings and meditating and facing things head on and sitting and feeling them, it's really embracing the concept of holding on to everything lightly, because nothing is permanent. That's one of the Four Noble Truths. And everything that currently exists is going to cease to exist. Probably my biggest attachment right now in my life is my dog, because I do get unconditional love from my dog and a lot of fun. She's sitting here sleeping next to me. She's adorable. She's changed my life. She's the reason I even have my business. She's also given me a lot of mental health. I had attachment to things that were not necessarily healthy. And, is it healthy to be attached to anything? If you were to ask Buddha today, he would tell you that being attached to anything is going to lead to pain. I like to think that I choose what I'm attached to. I know that when my dog passes, I am going to be devastated. However, it's a choice that I'm making to be this attached. Can I hold that relationship lightly? Maybe, maybe not. I think that's something we'll see in the future. Luckily I'll have the Buddhist practice behind me, the practice of letting go, because it is a practice. It's a practice of discovering what you're attached to and letting yourself feel the pain that attachment causes when the threat arises that it'll be gone, when the thought arises that it could be gone, when it starts to go, all of those things. Big part of Buddhism is meditation. And what does meditation allow you to do? Number one, it allows you to start to notice. We're so busy all the time and we rush through life that when you slow down and you just sit and even if you are one of those people that say, I can't meditate, even just the attempt to meditate and you slow things down and you just sit, even if a million thoughts arise, just notice what they are. I am extremely busy because I have a full-time job and I own a business. So I work 7 days a week in some capacity. And so I'm completely busy, and I try to get in agility with my dog and go to training and go to competitions and try to walk her because she's a Jack Russell. She needs plenty of exercise. I try to do all that, and I think because of my extensive experience, yoga, meditation, I think that noticing things comes a little more natural to me. But it can, even for a brand new meditator, if you sit down and you try to slow things down and you try to focus on your breath, just pay attention to what comes up. What thoughts are flying into your head and how quick do they stay, and what seems to be the nature? Is there a recurring theme of those thoughts? You could notice things like, do I always think about the past? And is that what makes me sad? Am I always fretting about the future? Like, where am I? Which direction is my brain going? There's so many exercises you can do when you sit down and meditate, besides focusing on a candle flame, focusing on music, focusing on your breath, feeling sensation in your body. These are all different methods you can try to begin to meditate. But there's also mental things you can do too. So it's noticing, time. Does your brain go to the past? Are you fretting about the future? Usually we're in one or the other. Very rarely are we actually in the present moment. That's one of the reasons I love agility with my dog, is it's probably one of the only times in my life that I'm in the present moment. And yoga, when I was doing yoga actively every single day, in the beginning, I'd be in the middle of a pose and suddenly, and it didn't happen all the time, but I'd be in the middle of a pose and then like another thought would fly into my head and be like, I realized, okay, I'm not in the pose anymore. I'm thinking about whatever. But yoga, an active meditation, a physical movement meditation, whether it's Tai Chi or yoga or whatever, that helped me stay present in the moment most of the time. Agility for me is meditation because it allows me to be in the moment. I think anything that allows you to be in the moment and stop those thoughts is a form of meditation. For some people, it's cooking. There's noises in the background. That's my cat doing agility in a cheesy kitty tunnel. Kitty tunnel? Get it? So anyway, so back to letting go. So, what is the key here? The takeaway, I guess, from this talk is noticing what you're attached to, noticing the pain that arises at the thought or threat or actuality of that thing starting to go from your life, and facing up to the fact that that is a reality. Nothing is permanent at all. Whether we like to, think about that or not, it's a fact of life. And how can we hold on to something lightly where we just let what comes into our life and let go of what is starting to go, and just letting it all happen and just knowing that that is life and accepting it rather than trying to fight it. And that is the key. And if we had that key and we could unlock that, we would all be enlightened. So I say namaste. The divine in me honors the divine in you. And I wish you peace and no suffering. I wish you letting go. And I wish you a great day.